everyone, my name is Francesca. Welcome to my channel. Today I am making this video because I got pregnant on an IUD, specifically the Skyla Iud. And I remember when I was getting it that I was doing a lot of research. I was watching YouTube videos of people getting pregnant on an IUD, and through that, I kind of wish I would have listened, but also I just feel like I need to share my story because, you know, I don't think that IUDs are awful and that they don't work for some people, but it is advertised as the most effective birth control, and that's exactly what I thought, and it didn't work out that way for me. So I wanted to share my story, and this is going to be my full experience of having an IUD, from start to finish, from getting it put in, everything. I mean, because that's my experience, and I ended up getting pregnant on an IUD. So should we have a counter of how many times I'm going to say IUD in this video? I'll try to keep it to a not annoying rate. So I had just graduated college, and at that point had never been on birth control. Danced with the devil all through college, you know, just being careful, being safe. But this was the first time that I was really like in a relationship, and I wanted more security. So I went in looking for birth control. I've always been afraid of birth control, and it's always kind of been an irrational fear because I've seen people on the pill, I've seen them have mood problems or, you know, go through things and have to try out a bunch of different pills until they find the one that they want. Or I've seen people, you know, gain a lot of weight, and I'm already somebody who is plus size, and I think the idea of that just really scared me. And I know a lot of people can say that it's placebo or whatever when getting birth control, like, it won't make you gain weight. Some people say it does. Some people say the shot makes you gain weight. Like, I was just terrified of it because I'm already a bigger girl. And I also know from experience that I'm not good with taking pills every day. And so that also scared me because why would you get birth control if like you have to take it and it won't work if you don't? And I already knew from experience that I'm not good at taking pills every day. So that was a problem there for me. So researching it, looking into it, my doctor really suggested the IUD for me. I knew other friends that have gone on it. Everyone seemed to love it. And the more I looked into it, it seemed perfect for me. It was low maintenance. You knew it was there. You checked the string. You knew it was there. And it was supposed to be the most effective birth control on the market. I remember sitting in the office, in my doctor's office, and they had like this chart, I don't know, like a poster, and it was like birth control based off effectiveness, and whatever condoms and diaphragms were like down here, and it was like going up, and at the top it said IUD 99.9% effective, and I was for it. I was like, okay, let's do this. Not only is it low maintenance, but it says it's literally advertised as the most effective birth control. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. And so I scheduled the appointment and I get it put in. If you're, you know, researching that, you'll probably come across a bunch of horror stories about it, about like the process of getting it put in and everything else. I would say that, I mean, like, yes, I did squeeze the nurse's hand, and I took whatever they tell you that you're allowed to take before it, and I was fine. Like, it really doesn't take that long, and it is very uncomfortable. I wouldn't necessarily call it painful. Maybe I have a high pain tolerance, but to me it was just like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever felt, to this day. But that's about it. Like, I didn't think it was so incredibly painful. However, afterwards was extreme cramping, and it lasted a day for me. I had a little bit of bleeding afterwards, and then that was it. Like, literally, that was it for me. And you read all these stories about how it could take months for a woman's body to adjust to it and everything else, and that may be true. And again, like, disclaimer, like, I am not a doctor whatsoever, so it might affect you that way, but in terms of like how it affected me, it was just after a week, like, I felt completely normal, and really I was just experiencing cramping. So that's about it. And then I was fine. My periods never really changed while on it. I know some people say that your period can just eventually go away. For me, it never did. I never really experienced changes in my mood or like how I was feeling, anything like that. And I think I said at the beginning of this video, but I got Skyla, which I knew a lot of friends that had gone on Mirena. My doctor just suggested Skyla. I'm under the impression that it's smaller and that it's good for people who haven't had children and, you know, are kind of starting out with birth control. I'm pretty sure that's what my doctor said. It's been a while. Whatever. That's the one I was on. So I get on it. Everything's fine. Pretty much. So I got on it in August of 2016. Everything is absolutely fine until, I'm going to say, April 2017. Now, when I say fine, it's that I don't notice anything strange. I'm checking my string is there. I never had problems with like my partner feeling it. I think I did ask for them to cut it shorter when I went for like a checkup, but that was just because I was like insecure about it, but like my partner never felt it, and it was never a problem. So again, absolutely everything was fine, never experienced any problems. I will be completely transparent, like yes, we weren't very safe. And it worked that long, you know, as it was intended to work. But it was at the end of April or May 2017 that I noticed that the string felt different. And this may not make sense to you if you didn't have it, but you're supposed to check the string to make sure that it's still there, to make sure that it's in place. And so I remember checking it in May, and I remember it feeling different. And I don't really know how else to explain that other than it felt different. It was still there. I guess maybe it felt like it was a loop, and it's supposed to, normally you just feel like fish wire, like it just comes straight down. But to me, what I thought I was feeling was that it like looped. And another thing that I thought was strange was that it didn't move. So something that they tell you is that, you know, you could check it and not feel it, but like just wait a few hours and try again, because the string moves around, and that's okay. Like, it's okay that it moves, and it's supposed to do that. And something that I thought was very strange was that my string didn't move. Like, anytime I would go check it, it was in the same spot. And looking back at this, that should have been a red flag for me, and I should have called my doctor. But for me, in my head, it was, well, I can feel the string, so it's not a problem. Because they just tell you, like, if it comes out, call your doctor. If it's absolutely not there and you cannot find it, call your doctor. There's something wrong. But again, like, my thought process was just that the string is there, so there's nothing to worry about. So clearly it's in place. Like, maybe it just feels different. Maybe it does move, and every time I check it, it's in the same spot. That might sound very naive, but I guess my thought process was just like, why wouldn't it work? It's not that it's missing. It's not that it's not in place. It didn't come out. Whatever. So that was like, I would say I mostly noticed it in May. In May is when I got pregnant. So fast forward to the end of June, the last week of June. That is the week that I found out I was pregnant, and I was probably with my cycle. I was probably on day like 36, which wasn't odd for me because I have a longer cycle. So I was watching it, and truly, like, me getting sick and like taking a test, I still thought like there was absolutely no way. So I got really sick. It's actually a really crazy story, but broke up with my partner on a Monday. Tuesday, absolutely puking my guts out. Could not understand it. And again, like, I had Chipotle the night before. I was just like, okay, like, clearly the Chipotle did not agree with me. I was so incredibly ill. I never want to get that sick again. And then the next day was a Wednesday, and my mom was like, well, why don't you go take a pregnancy test? Like, you never know until you know. And I took it, and I was absolutely in complete shock because the IUD was still in, which is insane. So kind of backtracking a little bit, were there any symptoms that I ignored? Yes. I was starting a new diet, and it wasn't really, I don't want to say it was like a crazy diet, but I was incorporating like random things into my diet, things that like would increase my fiber or protein or like random things like that. So I did have stomach cramps and I did feel off, but I was just like, okay, clearly it's whatever I'm eating. Like, it's what I'm eating. My body's not used to eating this type of food. That's all it is. And I also was on like Thermofit or something, some weight loss pill, and I was like, hey, I clearly don't feel well because of that. But in reality, like, those were early symptoms that I was pregnant. I also got extremely constipated, and what I chalked that up to was eating more fiber, because they say that if you eat more fiber, you can become constipated. Like, looking back, like, yes, there were symptoms, but at the same time, I think a normal person would ignore those symptoms too. So I was in absolute, complete shock when I found out. Now, when I did find out, I immediately called my doctor. So it was that Wednesday. On Thursday, she got me in, and she asked me if I wanted to take the IUD out, and I said yes, absolutely. Looking back, it's really hard to like look back at that time of my life because my son is 4 months old now, but the place that I was in then, I couldn't even imagine having a baby, and I truly was not under the impression that I was going to. And so it's really weird to talk about that because, like, I have he's here, and he's 4 months old, and he's the love of my life. But I will be completely honest, is that she asked me, and she said, okay, there is a risk of miscarriage if I take it out. And I was like, okay, take it out. Like, I don't care. Like, just get it out of me. And she took it out, and she said that it was still in place, but she noticed what I meant when I said that it was like a loop. So she was like, I don't understand what happened fully, because from me taking it out, the IUD was still in place. However, she understood what I meant when I said like the string was like in a loop. So I don't really understand how it happened. I don't know if that's fully how it happened or what happened. It happened, it was inside me, that's what we know. The process of getting the IUD taken out was actually the worst thing in the world. Now, I had a C-section, so I didn't have vaginal birth, so I'm sure vaginal birth is a lot worse than getting an IUD taken out when you're pregnant. So what I mean by that is probably a normal person getting the IUD taken out is uncomfortable, but might not be as bad as it was because I was pregnant. Because when you're pregnant, your cervix closes. So she literally had to go. She was like, my doctor was like, I have to go get another tool to rip this IUD out of you. And it was absolutely traumatizing. So after the IUD came out, I immediately went over to get an ultrasound to check to make sure that it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy, because that is something that can happen with being on an IUD. And so I went over. That's when they told me that I was 6 weeks, because I had no idea how far along I was, that I was 6 weeks pregnant, and I was able to see the heartbeat. That poor ultrasound technician. She's like, do you want a picture? I was like, no, I don't fucking want a picture. Like, it's funny. I can laugh about it now. So basically, that's kind of the end of it. My doctor told me that I pretty much have to wait 7 to 10 days to make sure that I don't miscarry from this. Obviously, anyone can miscarry in their first trimester and beyond, but there's a high risk of miscarriage in your first trimester. But she said specifically, if you were to miscarry from me taking the IUD out, it would happen within 7 to 10 days. And that didn't happen, thankfully. I definitely don't look at this experience as a bad thing, but I also haven't been very willing or eager to jump back into birth control. I didn't go on birth control after having my son. I think about it a lot because, I'm with my partner. I have a partner. I don't want another kid right now, but I don't know if it's for me, because it's just, I do have it in my head that birth control is a myth. Not really. Not a myth, joke, but that it won't work. There's always going to be a chance that it won't work. And I'm sure that sounds crazy to some people, like, okay, but at least you could be a little bit more safe with birth control, even if there is a chance it won't work. But I guess just being on the IUD and it already not working, like, I'm just not very eager to jump back into it. But, you know, I'm not upset that it happened to me. I love being a mom. I love my son, absolutely. But I definitely wanted to share my story, and I'm like a walking PSA. I had students all last year, college students, and literally I'd be like, hey, don't trust birth control, or you don't always know, or I'd overhear them talking about birth control because they're college-age girls, and they would talk about what they'd want to go on, and I'd be very eager to tell my story, like, hey, I got pregnant on an IUD, like, I'm literally pregnant right now, and I was on an IUD. So I wanted to share my story because I know people do research, and I know people want to know more about it, and it is possible. You know, I never could have ever imagined it happening. But if you do have an IUD and you notice anything, I would definitely say to, you know, get it checked out, talk to your doctor, because I think I was very naive, but at the same time, I know it was something that, like, it didn't seem urgent, which, you know, things don't always need to, but to me it was just like, I didn't, in my head, think that it was something that I needed to call the doctor about. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video on how I got pregnant on an IUD. It is my first video ever, but please subscribe to stick around. I'm hoping to make more videos on being plus size, on being a new mom, and on my pregnancy. My social media is linked below. If you have any questions about birth control, being in an IUD, pregnancy, anything, please put them below in the comments, and I will definitely try to answer them. But yeah, like this video and subscribe for more, and I will see you later.